murder rates and lockdowns. So in 2020, murder rates spiked by a lot. People blamed a lot of different things. Basically homicides in the average U.S. city, homicides went up by close to 30%. 30%. That's a huge number. Across the nation, 24,000 people were killed compared to about 19,000 the year before. That's a huge increase, 5,000 additional deaths. And the question has been what caused it. A lot of commentators said at the time and since have blamed basically defund the police initiatives, the rollback of police enforcement after the George Floyd's death, with the idea that police were afraid to go into the streets. Police departments basically told police to back off. There was generally less policing being done. And so the explanation for the increase has been, to a large extent, lack of policing because of the, BLM riots and the George Floyd prosecution of the policemen after the George Floyd death and all of that. So now there's an analysis that actually looks basically at a day-to-day basis from January 1 all the way to December 31st of 2020 to see what exactly happened. And the reality is that the largest increase and most in deaths in murder rates actually happened before George Floyd was killed. It happened it happened starting mid-April, and really continued up at a high rate through the George Floyd BLM riots until late June. Then it declined a little bit and then stayed steady but high through the rest of the year. And then, of course, by 2022 and 2023 and 2024, from the data we have, declined from there pretty dramatically. So why did it increase before Floyd? Well, basically, the reason is, it's pretty clear, that the increase was lockdowns. Lockdowns are what caused the increase in crime. People were held up at home. They didn't have work to go to. They couldn't, they couldn't go out and easily meet with friends and hang out. And the frustration, the angst, unhappiness that this all caused, right, is what led to the murders. They basically go straight up, starting with the major lockdowns in major cities around the United States. So there's no question the demoralizing and defunding the police probably sustained these rates. The fact that police were not out in the streets probably sustained those rates for the rest of the year. But the fundamental sin was the lockdowns. When you keep young men at home, or at least pretend to keep them at home, then if they're not busy, if they're not at work, if they're not at school, they get bored, and the energy gets expressed in gang-like activities. And then, of course, the riots in George Floyd kind of almost legitimized the violence. It was almost okay to go burn stuff down and to harass people, and including to shoot them. So it was lockdowns. So add that to the reasons, many reasons why lockdowns, except for very short period of times in emergency situations, are always going to be a disaster. Yep, lockdowns explain it. So if you're interested in the data, if you're interested to see the relationship between different neighborhoods or different cities and what happened and the increase in violence in different cities and when it started and how it relates to the lockdowns, there is the report that came out was issued by the Brookings Institute, and the Brookings Institute. You can find you can find this this kind of data. And they do a pretty thorough job. I mean, they really analyze the data. They look at examples from before 2020. So they look at other examples of murder spikes to see what actually happened. So, for example, Baton Rouge saw a significant spike in murders in 2005 as it absorbed thousands of displaced students from low-performing schools in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. And again, young people, not busy, not really doing anything, just hanging around, unemployed, and what you get is increasing crime. And by the way, those murder rates in Baton Rouge stayed very high for a long time after that, as people stayed in Baton Rouge and didn't go back to their homes. Right? And then the same thing happened in 2016 when a massive flood struck Baton Rouge in August of 2016, damaged 50,000 homes, pushing large numbers of teens out of school, as thousands of families became homeless, and local schools closed. When you close schools, when you close employment opportunities, crime spikes. Crime spikes. And they stay high for a while afterwards. They don't just spike and go back down. They go up and they stay up. All right, so I encourage you, if you're interested in these kind of stuff, the Brookings Institute, just look up Lockdowns and Murder, Brookings Institute, and you can find the report. It's available online. Really interesting and really, really detailed.